Yo, this hair. Please, can you just like behave? I hope I don't look like those grannies. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Baki Sekhale and I am back with yet another true crime video. And today I'm bringing back all the way home to South Africa. Some of you might be very familiar with this case. It was a very high profile case. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the case, let's dive right in. So for today's case, we'll be discussing Tshegofatso Pule, who was born on the 10th of April in the year 1992. She was born to parents Makina and Lungi Mashiane, who unfortunately passed away while she was still a very, very young girl, leaving herself as well as her younger brother. And they were raised by their aunt in Meadowlands, which is in Soweto. Now, Tshegofatso was described as a social butterfly. She loved to dance, even though she wasn't really good at it. But she loved to dance. She loved makeup. Like, the beauty space was where it is that she felt most at home. She loved to look good. She loved to smell good. Anything beauty was definitely where she was. So it was no surprise that once it is that she was done with her high school, she would go and work in the beauty department.
A happy child and bubbly. A child who loves fashion and very clean. Like her mother, she liked clothing. So who will never go for something that was sold for 50 rands clothes. She was very expensive. Very expensive. But the most dangerous thing about Tshegofatso, she was very secretive. She was not this child who will come to you and say, I have a problem. Even if she was in pain, she will still smile. You will keep on asking, is everything okay? She will say, yeah, I'm fine. But as a mother, you will see that today is not like yesterday. Today she's not like last week. Something is definitely going on. But she'll keep on saying, no, I'm fine.
Now, she worked at one of the stores as a beauty advisor, so like your Revlon, for example. And so when people would walk into the store, then, sometimes like they'll, the beauty girls, like they'll either help you find your matching foundation, etc. And so what she would also do as a side hustle as well is that she would do like house calls, she would do people's makeup for events. Just like makeup was literally her life. Now, in the year 2018, on a night out, Tshegofatso then met a gentleman who goes by the name of Ntutuko Shoba. And so for the remainder of the story, as we go on, we'll just call him Shoba because there's like some accounts when it is that like they're in court and stuff like that. When he reads certain things out, he uses or he refers to himself as Shoba, which is his surname. But I think just to make it easier for everyone, we'll just refer to him as Shoba for the rest of this case. Now, Shoba was actually in a 13-year relationship with a lady who goes by the name of Rosetta. They were actually already in the process of like paying lobola, so he had basically already started paying lobola for her. And I think they had a joint bond on a house. Like, they'd been together for a long time, and it seemed like, I guess, people who are going to spend the rest of their lives together, I mean, they have a joint bond on a house as well. But Shoba didn't really hide this from Tshegofatso. It was something that she knew. She was aware that he had a partner and that he had taken lobola out for this partner, but she didn't really mind it at the time because I guess she wasn't really looking for anything serious as well. So for the time being, their connection or their situationship was basically working out for the both of them. Now, Shoba and Tshegofatso would mostly see each other like on the weekends, and like at some point she even thought like he didn't really have an actual partner, like maybe he was just making it up, because they would see each other a lot. Like, they were just always together. The relationship, the honeymoon phase, everything was perfect. They were slowly but surely, or she was rather slowly but surely, like starting to fall for him. Like, they were together all the time. It's not so long after this that she fell pregnant, and they had basically had a conversation about it, and they decided that at the time the best thing to do was to terminate the baby, because Shoba had actually said that his fiance's mother had had just been diagnosed with cancer. So there was basically just like a lot happening in his life at the time. And so a baby wouldn't really be like, this wouldn't be the ideal situation to bring like a baby into the picture. So Shoba then gives Tshegofatso money to go and to terminate the pregnancy. And, you know, obviously, like I had mentioned earlier, she didn't have both her parents. She lost them at a very young age. Like, she had just been, like, you know, when you lose so many people in your life. So, like, even having to terminate the baby did take a mental toll on her. It wasn't really something that she was happy to do. But at the time, understood the situation and why it is that the baby had to be terminated. So even after this, then their relationship basically goes on. And so, you know, they were picking up again. Things were going good. And her aunt was actually celebrating, I think it was her 60th birthday. And so she obviously invited Shoba over. You know, I mean, you'd invite your partner over, like, you know, your boyfriend, come through. And so apparently she was obviously very, very excited for him, like, to come and like to meet her family and all of that. But he was very apparently like, he wasn't really in the best spirits at the birthday party. Even when they tried to like talk to him, engage and stuff like that, he was very closed off. I think maybe this might be because he knew that he was like getting married to someone else and stuff like that. So he didn't really want to get too involved like in her family and their situation or whatever it was. But apparently during the birthday party, he wasn't really engaging and like very open throughout the celebration. Now, in October 2019, Tshegofatso falls pregnant yet again. However, this time around, she didn't really tell anyone about it the moment that she found out. She didn't tell him either. She didn't tell Shoba either. This time around, she just wanted to know, like, think about it a little bit before, like, making any decisions. At this point, sadly, Shoba's fiance loses her mother to cancer. And one thing that we definitely need to note is that he then found out that her mother had left about 8 million rand. You need to remember this because it does come in later, like as the case goes on. And obviously at this point, he's spending less time with Tshego because obviously he needs to support his partner because she's grieving and she's obviously just not okay. So 3 months later, this is when Tshegofatso then decided to, she wanted to tell Shoba what it was that was going on about the pregnancy. And basically, long story short, she wanted to talk to him. He wasn't really like, he was a bit busy. I think he was in a meeting at the time. And so I think she ends up just sending him a voice note or something like that. But the chat does happen, I think, over WhatsApp, or they had a phone call. And this is basically when it is that she breaks the news to him. And so this is when Tshegofatso basically tells him as well that she's not planning to terminate the second baby. And he's not really like too happy about the fact that she doesn't want to terminate the baby because obviously at this point he's still with his fiance who just lost the mother. And so now bringing a baby into the situation for him was definitely going to be an inconvenience. And so as you can imagine, things in the relationship started to fall apart. And he then decided that he was going to strain her financially because I think from like the way the relationship was, he would sometimes send her money because there was an incident where she had asked him to buy her data, and he had basically said to her like, if we can't even afford data, then how can we afford to bring a baby in? So he deliberately like stopped sending her as much money and stuff like that just to like try and make it make sense like in her head to be like, okay, if I don't have money or if we don't have enough money, then maybe bringing a baby into the world isn't such a good idea. So at this point, Tshegofatso is obviously getting very frustrated, and so she, you know, starts to ask him like, do you not think the baby is yours? Like, why are you giving me such a tough time? Like, what is the situation? Like, I didn't make this baby on my own, so like, what is happening? And this baby is growing. I need to go to the doctor. The baby needs vitamins. Like, we need to start moving, you know. And so this is when he then sent her 500 rand. She then did go to the doctor as well and get scans. And after getting scans, he then responded on WhatsApp and he said, yo, that's great, I'm going to be someone's father. And so at this point, you'd obviously think that he's obviously like happy about the fact that he's going to be a father and he's accepted the fact that he's going to be a father. However, this is the furthest thing from the truth.
Stop accusing me. I said we are in this together. Tshego, I'm asking you questions. It seems like I just got myself in something else. Reason you are behaving this way is because you are not witness to whatever I'm going through. Shoba, baby, you decided you're keeping the baby, I will support you the best I can. Tshegofatso? Oh wow, so, cause I decided to keep the baby, so I have to deal. So when every girl that you make pregnant, you will tell them to abort it, and when your life must go on and pretend everything is okay. The worst thing to be killing babies, cause you're a guy, you don't have carry the guilt. It's just easy for you to tell me to abort the baby or decided to keep it. And Shoba responds to myself, no Nana, you are getting me wrong. We spoke and you decided, and I said I will support you. So I don't know what the issue is. Tshegofatso, yes, I decided, and I told myself I'll never have an abortion. You make everything as if it's my fault, right?
Now, obviously, Shoba was aware that at this point the baby is really coming. Like, this is obviously a real thing. However, he still chose not to tell his fiance at this time because she was still in grieving. Now we fast forward to April 2020, and obviously at this point we're deep within COVID. This is when like the lockdown had happened and everything like that. And so Shoba then bumped into an acquaintance who goes by the name of Mzukayise, who also has like a bit of like a criminal history. Like he's had his run-ins with the law. So basically Mzukayise and Shoba just basically like catch up because like, you know, they're acquaintances. They haven't really seen each other in a long time. You know, you're gonna touch base about COVID. I mean, at that point life was so crazy, like it felt like a dream. So, you know, you have quite a lot to catch up on. They caught up on all of that, and then as they're basically catching up, then Shoba decides to tell him about his situation with Tshegofatso and the baby. And you know, he basically was just telling him that, you know, he's in a tight position, and at this point he basically just wants to take Tshegofatso and the baby out. Like, he needs for them to be murdered because it's basically just going to ruin his life, and it's too much of an inconvenience with everything that's happening in his life. Mzukayise, obviously, because he has like a criminal history, he's like, no, don't worry about it. I'll find someone who can help us with this, and then once everything is sorted and I've found someone that we can trust, then I'll give you a call. Now, at this point, obviously, her belly's growing, the baby's growing, and so Tako's family wanted for her wanted to go and to meet Shoba's family. So mostly what happens in most African cultures is that when someone falls pregnant, so if I fall pregnant and I'm not married to the man, then my family usually goes over to the man's house to basically like announce the pregnancy. Then after that, negotiations start to happen where it is that like the man or his family will pay a certain amount of money, the agreed amount of money, and this is known as a man paying for damages because he's impregnated a woman who he is not married to. And so this is obviously what Teko's family wanted to do, to go over to Shoba's family and to announce the pregnancy. And so then Teko was like, no, don't worry about it. I'll talk to Shoba and I'll let him know that you guys want to come over and you want to announce the pregnancy. And so she does exactly that. She does alert Shoba and let him know that, listen, my family wants to come over to announce the pregnancy. And so Shoba's like, no, it's fine, I'll talk to my family about it and then we'll set up an arrangement. And so a meeting was set up for the Sunday. Now it is then when Shoba's family, or Shoba rather, would say that his family keeps postponing the meeting. The meeting was postponed at least into 4 Sundays. So like this Sunday they're like, no, we'll do it next Sunday. Next Sunday is the next Sunday. It happened at least 4 times. And so at this point, Tshegofatso's family is basically like over it. They're like, no, you know what, Shoba, just give us your mother's phone number directly. One of the aunts will contact your mother and then we'll like see like what works best for everyone, or which day like basically works for everyone. And so then Tshegofatso's aunts then decided to contact Shoba's mother, who apparently on the phone call was very like, she wasn't buying the whole thing, you know, like she wasn't interested in it. She was just dismissive of the whole thing. She was like, you know what, if you guys want this or you want to do whatever that you're trying to do. We're gonna need DNA and all of that. And obviously Tshego's still pregnant at this point, so the DNA thing is not really feasible at this point. But that's what they wanted. Like, we want DNA, like, don't just come here, you know what I'm saying? That type of a situation. So at this point, Tshegofatso's family was like, you know what, it's fine, we'll just back off. Maybe his family will come around, or once the baby's born, things will change, like that type of a situation. So then they like basically start to invest in the baby. They start buying the baby clothes. Tshego's friends also then decided to plan her a baby shower. Shoba then decides to follow up with Mzukayise, because at this point he hasn't like contacted him. Maybe he didn't even think it was a serious thing, you know, just to be like, dude, what's going on? And so then they decide to meet at a licensing department. I'm not sure why they chose this specific place to meet, but this is basically where the meeting was going to take place. And so as they meet up, you know, Shoba explains to Mzukayise yet again the importance of this murder. Like, it's a very important thing. His mother's fiance left 8 million. He cannot lose out on that 8 million. So he obviously knew that if his fiance had found out about the baby, chances are she'd probably not want to marry him anymore, go through with the whole proceedings or whatever. And his concern at this point is that he would then be like losing out on the 8 million. So Tshegofatso has to go as soon as possible. Now Mzukayise wanted 100k for to carry out the murder, whereas Shoba was only willing to give him 50k. And so the two men then decided to meet in between or in the middle, and then they settled on 70k, which is 70,000. Yeah, 70,000. Now, so the first plan that it is that they came up with, Shoba was like, you know what, dude, it's lockdown. Tshegofatso definitely needs money where she is, and so we'll just like put up a whole thing, like a fake job interview. We'll say that it's for like a makeup gig, and then thereafter we'll get her to a specific location, and then once she gets there, then you'll like take her out, you'll like deal with it, right? So Shoba was like, no, don't worry, I'll work up a plan to get her to the venue. You don't have to worry about that. But once it is that she gets to the venue, then now the plan moves over to Mzukayise, and now he has to carry out the hit. Now Shoba then gets a fake number, and then he calls himself Zanele, or pretends to be a woman by the name of Zanele, and he basically texts Tshegofatso like, hey, I hope you're good, you know, want to do a job interview about basically like makeup classes, like where you would teach people how to do their makeup and like stuff like that. And so obviously Tshegofatso is very, very excited about this, but she's also just like a bit skeptical. But you know, she tells her family and friends about it, and she's like, I'm gonna go, like it's such a great opportunity, and should obviously like make money at least just before the baby arrives. Now the plan was that Tshegofatso was going to meet Zanele at McDonald's, and once it is that they got to McDonald's, then they would go to the venue and have the interview or whatever the case may be, right? But then on the day of the interview, Zanele then texts Tshegofatso like, hey man, I'm running late, but you know what, I'll send a car over. There's gonna be a gray Jeep that's gonna be there waiting for you at McDonald's. Please just get into the gray Jeep, and then the gray Jeep will bring you over to where we are, like to the venue. And it's at this point where Tshegofatso was like, man, something just feels weird about this. Like, first we're meeting at a McDonald's, secondly now I must get into a great Jeep. So then Tshegofatso decides that no, she is not gonna go to McDonald's or to this job interview as a whole. Meanwhile, Mzukayise is obviously at McDonald's waiting for her, and obviously realized at some point that she's not coming or she didn't show up, and he then alerts Shoba, and Shoba was livid. He was so upset that she didn't come to the McDonald's and that their plan fell through. So at this point, obviously, they need to come up with a new plan. Now, the second plan that they came up with was that Shoba would invite Tshegofatso over to his place, where the baby basically just discuss like the baby's needs, basically write down a list of what the baby would need, you know, like basically like a list, like, okay, the baby's gonna need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then afterwards, the plan would be that Zukayise would then pretend to be an Uber that Tshegofatso would get into, and then the plan would basically take on from there. Now, then the plan was that after she gets into the Uber, then Zukayise would basically drive to a secluded area just under the bridge, and he would hang her on a tree alive. And so they were basically just gonna like try to make it look like a suicide. And the plan was also that just before he hung her, he would unlock her phone and basically write her status on her WhatsApp, or like text her family and friends like, I'm sorry I had to do this, whatever. Then he would hang her on a tree alive to then make it look like a suicide for many reasons. I mean, it was lockdown. A lot of people were dealing with serious financial strain. She has a baby on the way with a man who is like getting married. So, you know, they were gonna try to make it seem like everything that is happening is the reason why she ultimately then committed suicide. On the 4th of June, 2020, Tshegofatso was at this point like heavily pregnant. She was 8 months pregnant. She was tired. She didn't really want to go to Shoba's place, but she was like, you know what? She just has to go because she has to make sure that by the time this baby arrives, at least the baby has the things that they need. And so then she made her way over to Shoba's house. And so they did write the list. They made the list. They got some takeout. They ate some takeout. They watched movies. And he was drinking heavily, apparently, like more than like he usually drank. So at this point, then Shoba arranged for his fiance to call him, which he knew that Tshegofatso hated. And so obviously she did call, and then Tshegofatso was very, very upset at this point, and then Shoba basically started an argument. And so then the couple gets into an argument, which overall is actually part of Shoba's plan, because he knows that usually when it is that they're arguing, Tshegofatso will basically like, she'll just want to get an Uber and want to go, and she knows that he also will like refuse to take her home because of the argument. So basically the whole thing about starting an argument was initially part of the plan. Now, just as planned, Tshegofatso does tell Shoba that she wants an Uber, she wants to get out of here, and after saying that, he's like, okay, cool, it's fine, he'll get an Uber. And so he's pretending to get an Uber. Meanwhile, he's texting Zukayise, to like pull up, right? And so in the meantime, she's texting her on to say, hey, please don't lock the gate, I'm definitely gonna be home soon. And then Zukayise texts Shoba back that he's close by, they can basically like walk out. The couple then on CCTV footage is seen walking out. However, they walk back in because there was no car at the time. However, a few minutes later, then they walk back out. So obviously maybe it's like, no, the Uber is like 5 minutes away, let's just go back inside, we'll come back out, you know, like all these things. Now, upon Zukayise's arrival, Tshegofatso allegedly like walks, like, so you see her walk up to the window, and she basically tells Zukayise that sir, you know, you look drunk, and whatever the case is. However, apparently he did reassure her that no, he was okay, and that he was like gonna be able to drive her home. And it's believed that he was basically also like drunk, or was drinking as much as he was, because he was trying to basically like drown his conscience or whatever. Like, he didn't really want to be fully sober for what it was that they were about to do. Now, in court, Shoba was actually asked that, okay, if you're saying you care about this girl and whatever, why would you let her into a car with a person that's like clearly intoxicated? And Shoba claims that he also tried to, you know, tell her like, no, don't go with this guy, we'll get you another Uber. However, she insisted. But on the CCTV footage, as you see, like, he doesn't even walk up to the Uber. He doesn't even communicate. He doesn't even say anything. And apparently the conversation between Tshego and the Uber driver took place for about like 3 minutes, which is strange. Like, no one usually talks to an Uber driver for like 3 minutes. And it's unfortunate because the CCTV footage does not have audio. So you're not even sure like what the conversation was. But 3 minutes outside, like just talking to an Uber driver, it's not a normal thing. Usually you guys check safety checks, you make sure whatever your door opens, there's no child lock, you get into the Uber, you leave. This happens within the space of like 30 to 45 seconds. There's no way you're talking to an Uber driver for about 3 minutes. And even if you are talking to an Uber driver for 3 minutes, it's like your partner or your man, like, why is he also not walking up to the Uber driver like, babe, what's going on? Like, what are you guys arguing about? Like, what's going on? You know, what is this conversation about? At no point does Shoba walk up to the Uber. Tshegofatso then gets into the Uber and then they drive off. Mzukayise did not, however, follow through with the plan. He did go to a secluded area, but he says that he did not have the guts to shoot a pregnant woman. So instead what he did was he shot her in the chest. After having shot her in the chest, he then decided to go and to hang her on the tree. It was also proven that at the time when he was going to hang her on the tree, she was still conscious, like she was still basically like alive. Mzukayise then decided to move on and go on well with his drinking spree, and he basically takes Shoba to be like, the job is done. And then Shoba strategically also then starts to text Tshegofatso's phone in the morning, like, hey babe, did you get home safely? You know, stuff like that, just so that once this does come out, he has an alibi to show that no, I was in the house, because I mean the CCTV footage does show him walking back in the house, and then now he's texting her to find out if she got home safely. Now obviously at this point the family is worried sick, because Tshegofatso is known to be a person of her word. Every single time that she said I'm on my way home or I'm coming home, she's always come home. So her aunt was worried. And so then this is when her aunt and the family then decides to call Shoba, like, hey, where is she and stuff like that. Shoba's like, no, she left last night. I've also been trying to get a hold of her and I can't reach her. Pause. This is a bit strange, a little bit, right? Because it's like, okay, you sent your girlfriend into an Uber late at night, and then in the night and in the morning she's not saying anything. Wouldn't you expect that, like, as the boyfriend would be the first one to contact the family, like, hey, did she get home? I'm trying to get a hold of her, she's not answering. But like, you're gonna wait all the way till the family's the one calling you to be like, yo, where is she? Is she with you? And he's like, no, anyway, she left home. And because it's in the morning, where it is that she was hung, it's a trail that like people use, like a footpath that people use, right? And she was unfortunately found by a gentleman who goes by the name of Tshepo Budibe.
Family, but ba entseng ntwe le ska nka le sore ya bona ka hobane ntwe ba entseng le ba itseba ntwe re boneng mo le tshosa ngwana lona ba mosile mo for show go rona re feta mo re mmone ntwe tsa gatseng mo le botlhoko every day a ke feta mo ka taxi setlharese ka sheba every day a le yela mahala cause I can't unsee.
Now, because at this point a missing persons poster had come out, and the police had obviously gotten to the scene and found the body of Tshegofatso, the police basically then asked the family to please come and identify, because I mean also she's heavily pregnant, you know, so like the similarities, there were a lot of similarities there. And so yeah, then the family basically was asked to come and to identify the body. The police, however, did completely rule out suicide, because no one that is committing suicide would shoot themselves in the chest and then after shooting themselves in the chest go and like hang themselves. It's obviously foul play. Okay guys, just a little bit of a pause. My next door neighbor is playing music. If you can hear it, I really do apologize. Now, at this point, South Africa just went into an uproar after hearing about this case. We were deep within lockdown. However, you know, marches took place, women took the streets. Like, people were so shook about the brutality of this case. I mean, a heavily pregnant woman, and one of the people who were actually passing by and saw Tshegofatso's body, there was actually a video as well that was circulating, and it was such a painful video. I stumbled upon it by mistake, and I wish it was one of the videos I had never seen in my life. But it was such a painful situation. Like, it was such a brutal case. So South Africa literally went into uproar. People had to be like in lockdown and in their houses, but it was too much. And so then, since it was such a high profile case, the police decided to move on as quickly as they could, and this is when they had went to Shoba's house. However, Shoba was ready. I mean, he had his CCTV footage, and so he showed the police the CCTV footage, which shows him walking back into the house and her leaving in the grey Jeep. So Shoba wasn't really a suspect anymore, and so now what the police had to do was that they had to try find who this grey Jeep belonged to. Unfortunately, the CCTV footage at Shoba's place did not show the Jeep's number plate, and so then what the police decided to do was that they decided to look or focus on the routes from Shoba's house to the place or the scene of the crime, right? So any routes that Jeep would have used to move from the house to the scene of the crime, national roads or whatever the case may be, any cameras on those roads, that is where the police were going to try to look and see if they can find the number plates. And they were successful in this because the police were then able to pick up a number plate for that Jeep. Now, this Jeep was then linked to a female. However, the female, upon questioning, said no, her boyfriend had been using the Jeep that evening. And so then the police obviously then got a hold of the boyfriend and called him in for questioning. And the police were very smart in this because they didn't like get him and be like, hey, what happened or whatever. They said, it was obviously a lie, but the police said, hey, Shoba says that you were the last person to be seen with Tshegofatso, so what happened? Obviously, at this point, Zukai says, obviously, like, oh my gosh, Shoba's like, he's let the cat out the bag. So then Zukai decided to sing like a bird. He told the police everything. He told the police from the start, when they had met up, the first plan, the second plan, and how everything basically happened. Tshegofatso's family was still very suspicious of Shoba, and so at this point, while the hashtag Justice for Tshegofatso was trending on Twitter, Shoba's name also then started to make rounds, and so at this point, like, people knew who he was. People were trying to find any information that they could to see how it is that he could be linked into this. Obviously, at that point, he was not aware that Zukai had sang like a bird, and at that point, Zukai is arrested as well. It is also at this point when Shoba's mom sent a voice note to all her church groups, basically just thanking them and thanking God that the police commissioner had released a statement saying that the killer behind the Tshegofatso Pule case had been found. And so that means, or they thought rather, that meant that their son Shoba has been let go of all charges and he's not a suspect in this thing anymore. And God is good, because the killer had been arrested and found, which means her son has been proved to be, or what it was proved, guys, I don't know, to be innocent.
Sanibonani mahamente amahle athandekayo. Hayi cha, imithandazo iyasebenza abantwana benu, imithandazo yenu ngiyayibonga. Akekho ongikhulume naye, but I know ukuthi most of you, those who know, are with me. Umam Shoba lo okhulumayo. I think we have seen our surname. Ngeke nabona surname iba celebrity. Our surname last week Sunday until yesterday evening. God is so great, bantwana basekhaya. We agreed as a family ukuthi we're not going to say anything. We're not going to talk. We're not going to say anything because we do not know this thing isesezandleni zamaphoyisa. Though we knew ukuthi what is happening, but we are not allowed. Nathi nje besike vele sithande ukukhuluma until the culprits are apprehended, or one person. Manje siyabonga kakhulu. I hope noma ke thina sazi further, but then ubheka icele izolo uma nimzwile abamzwile ethi 2 females who were brutally murdered. One was found under the tree at Dobsonville. The culprit was apprehended. The girl is not yet identified. And then the second one is Upule Tshegofatso, who happens to be an associate yomntana wami uNtuthuko Shoba. That's my last born son, uNtuthuko Shoba. Now then, fine, he was pointed at umuntu ongaba involved kulento, but fortunately ngoba emuhle uNkulunkulu, itechnology yasisiza ngendlela emangazayo. Kwathola ukuthi ku complex yakhe ama-CCTV cameras are so good, clear and everything. Fanele ngabe uNtuthuko uye wa interrogator eboshiwe ephakathi, because this case is very it's a very brutal case. It's a murder embi. Therefore uNtuthuko wasizwa ke ama footage, ama cameras, ne family bebuza ukuthi I suspect why ingaboshwa. But no, manifuna ukubheka ningeza over a police station izobona I footage. Yo njengabantu bomthetho asikwazi, because you can see uNtuthuko accompanying the girl ngabo past 9 ebusuku, because now uNtuthuko has a fiancé uselobolile, but then abantwana bethu ngabantwana bethu. Then uNtuthuko has a kind of friendship relationship with the girl, and of course as it is claimed that he's the father of the baby, but then according to those who know, they were fathers of the baby. Now then, let us not talk about that. Umthetho uzoyisho ke into efana naleyo. Then uNtuthuko uyabonakala ephelezela this girl to the car because she was angry ukuthi Rosetta, that's my makoti to be, my daughter-in-law to be, efonile. She knew about Rosetta, but then she was very angry. UNtuthuko, when he wanted to take her home, Zone 3 Meadowlands, she said, no, my ride is outside. Already she's been texting. She had been texting whoever that she texted. And then a grey jeep came, ngaibona nami footage, and it took the girl, because Ntutu was following the girl up to the car. The window opened, and I asked, because peli footage ayiveza ama sounds, what was she now saying? Ngoba window liyavuleka. Mase sizwa lo mntana ebulewe ngithi kuNtuthuko, it might not be South Africans ngempela labantu ababulala umntwana kabuhlungu kangaka. Ntuthi ukuthi mom, no mama, she was asking ukuthi kiyamankoloyi ena, and the guy inside said kena mokoloyi. That was the last time my son saw the girl.
Now, basically, to all my international subbies who did not understand basically what that voice note meant, long story short, the mother is just basically explaining, as I said, that the police commissioner has found, has claimed that the killer had been found, and she does admit that her son did know the woman or the lady who was murdered, and basically talks about how it is that her son basically has been proven that he basically has nothing to do with it. She thanks everyone for praying with her. She thanks everyone for going with them throughout this journey, and basically just that God is good, her son is innocent, and the killer has been found. Thank you, Jesus. Now, Mzgaise was then sentenced to 20 years, and he only got a 20-year sentence because he was a state witness. He had basically helped the police within this case, and he was also able then to prove all of Shoba's involvement in this case. Now, Shoba was arrested in the year 2021. He applied for bail 3 times, and he was given the life sentence. He tried to appeal both the conviction and the sentence. However, he was denied. And in all of the court proceedings and everything that had happened, Shoba had shown no remorse. He had shown no remorse during the trial. He showed no remorse even after he was convicted of Tshegofatso Pule, or having had involvement in her murder. And yeah, that is the very heartbreaking case of Tshegofatso Pule, guys. Let me know what you think about it. Don't forget to like, to comment, to share, to subscribe, and let me know what other cases you'd like for me to cover, and I'll definitely get onto that. I'll see you next time, guys. Goodbye.